Good morning, second graders, and welcome back to our pollinator research. So yesterday we started learning a little bit more about wasps and flies, and today we're going to continue learning that. So before we do, let's go over our learning targets again. Our first one says, I can identify the relationship between pollinators and fruits, flowers, and vegetables. So remember, we're trying to learn a little bit more about how wasps, flies, birds, bees, butterflies, all of these animals help flowers and plants make more of themselves, right? So those are the pollinators, the birds, the bees, the wasps, the flies, the butterflies, and they're the ones who help bring pollen from plant to plant so they can make more of themselves. And today we're going to focus a little bit more on a couple of plants that wasps and flies help to pollinate. And our second learning target says, I can research information about pollinators to teach somebody else. So remember, we're getting all of this information, all of this research, and by the end, you guys are going to do your own research and you're going to make your own presentation to teach somebody else about a pollinator and that relationship between pollinators and the plants that they help. So again, we're focusing on wasps and we're focusing on flies. When we're done, we're going to fill out that same worksheet on Seesaw or Google Classroom. Today, I'm going to ask you guys to fill out the bottom part on your own. So the top part says name of pollinator, and we're studying wasps and flies. We're going to research plants that it pollinates. So we're going to write one plant it pollinates here. And then the last part says an interesting fact I learned. So you're going to share something new that you learned at the bottom. So here is the text that you're going to read. And as we're looking at it, what I notice is there are a lot of pictures and not a lot of words. So before I read, I'm just noticing what I see. I see two different types of flowers. I see a fruit over here. This actually looks like chocolate, so I'm kind of interested in what this is going to be about. And I'm looking, and the title says Forever Grateful, Flies and Wasps. So before we start reading, I want to ask you, what do you think the title means? So my first question, you can either say it to yourself or find somebody close to you to talk to. I'll give you 10 seconds. What does it mean to be grateful? Ready? Go. So another word for grateful is thankful. So for example, if somebody gives you something, maybe somebody gives you a pencil and you needed one, or maybe when your mom makes you dinner and you say thank you, you're being thankful or grateful. So grateful means you're appreciating what somebody else does for you. And so I'm wondering, what do you think? So the title says forever grateful. What do you think that means, and why do you think the author gave this text that title? So think about what we've been learning about. This says forever grateful flies and wasps. Who do you think is grateful? What do you think this means? Why did the author give this text that title? Go ahead and talk to somebody or tell yourself what you think. Ready? Go. Okay, so I'm using what I already know. I know that wasps and flies are pollinators, and I know that pollinators help plants. So I'm wondering if the author is saying that the plants are thankful to the wasps and the flies for how they pollinate these plants. That's my guess. So I'm thinking this title is about plants being grateful to flies and wasps because they help to pollinate them. So let's go ahead and start reading. I'm going to start with this side and then move on to this side. So the subtitle here says cacao, and it says here, cacao is used to make chocolate. Flies and wasps like the nectar. It is in the center of the cacao flower. Blackberry. There are many seeds inside each blackberry. Blackberry flowers are white. There is a lot of pollen and nectar too. So now we're going to go ahead and fill in our chart. I don't need to write full sentences. Remember, I'm just taking notes, so it doesn't have to be perfect yet. So we already have the name of the pollinator, which was wasps and flies, and I chose to write about the cacao flower. So I said one plant it pollinates is the cacao flower. And the last part down here says an interesting fact I learned. I'm not going to fill this in. I will give you the text and I will give you this worksheet on either Seesaw, or if you're using Google Classroom, you'll have that on Google Classroom. And I would like you to tell me at least one thing that you learned. If you have any questions also, please write down any questions you have so that we can add that to our KWL chart and see if we can do some research to answer your questions. Okay. So I'm looking back at our learning targets and I want to make sure that we met both of these. So I can identify the relationship between pollinators and plants. I think that we learned about wasps and flies and how they help the cacao and the blackberry plants as pollinators. So we can check that one off. And we did some research, so we were reading to learn about pollinators, and we're getting ready to learn how to research and how to present our information. So we're working on that second learning target. So your turn now. Go ahead and get on Seesaw or Google Classroom and fill in this worksheet for yourself.